Straight all day.
You are now tuned into the show where you learn the discipline to show up day after day to do the work, the confidence to put yourself out there boldly and authentically, and the mental toughness to continue showing up, doing the work, putting yourself out there, even when the success you've expected to achieve has yet to be achieved. And on top of all this, you get a huge dose of personal initiative. What is that, Dre? That is the go-getter energy that moves any one of us, including yourself, to go and make things happen instead of waiting for things to happen. And then we put all this together into a series of frameworks, approaches, insights, strategies, and techniques, all underneath the umbrella of one unifying philosophy that is called Work on Your Game. My name is Dre Baldwin, also known as Dre All Day, and welcome to the show. And today's topic is how to give clear directions. How to give clear directions when you want something done, especially for those of you who are going to be or are in a position of delegating and giving instructions, and you want things done a certain way and you want to make sure they get done correctly. Maybe you're a little bit antsy about giving up control and giving up power and delegating to other people. How can you make sure your directions are so clear that even a caveman can do it and that they can't mess it up? That's the topic here today. But before we get into that, let me make sure everybody is getting my daily motivation text. I send it out every single day for free to everyone who's in my text community. All you got to do to get in that community, to get that text, is text me at this number. You got your phone in your hand right now, so just open up the text message, text this number. Here it is, 305-384-6894. When you text that number, you'll be in my text community. I'm going to send you a text back so that we get you confirmed in the group. I'm going to ask you a question and maybe a couple questions up front, just so I can find out who's in my text community. And every time I send out that daily motivation text, or anytime, as a matter of fact, you can respond to any one of those texts, and you will make yourself eligible to get a response from me, because I go through my text every single day and respond to people who are in my text community. So that number, once again, just in case you missed it, 305-384-6894. So send a text to that number. You'll be getting my daily motivation text every single day, guaranteed to keep you focused, sharp, and on point every day. Now, this topic today is about how to give clear directions. First of all, let's get clear on what the word direction means. And I like to give definitions of the words that I use here so that we're all on the same page, because nowadays, it's crazy. People change the definitions of words so they can make their points. But we just use the dictionary, okay? And if I'm not using the dictionary, I'll tell you that I'm not using it, and I'll explain to you why. But most of the time, I'm using the dictionary. Here's the definition. Direction is a course along which someone or something moves. That's it. How can you make it clear what course you want someone or something to move? That's all you got. That's what we're talking about here today. Simple outcome, but sometimes it might take a little bit of ingenuity and a certain level of intelligence to make sure you can get this message across to other people. So listen, even dumb people can follow good directions. This is the thing that matters. So any of you, and this is not just about delegation or being a boss or telling other people what to do. Because when I say giving clear directions, this is also about if you want to get people on board with what you have going on. If you are selling something and you want to sell it to other people, if you want people to get excited about something that you're doing, your directions have to be clear. Your process has to be clear. What you're doing has to be clear, has to be unambiguous, has to be easily understandable, and hopefully transferable, meaning if you tell someone else what you're doing, they should be able to take what you said and then tell it to somebody else and they understand it. And then the next person comes and they understand it. The next person understands it. The fewer people who can understand what you're doing, the harder it will be for your message to spread to more and more people. Now, the exception to that, and sometimes that might be a good thing, because maybe you don't want your message to spread to everybody. All right, this is why people encode their messages sometimes in such a way that they don't want it to spread. They don't want everybody to understand it. But if you have a message or an idea or a plan or a whatever that you want to spread far and wide, you want to make it as clear as possible so that everyone can understand it. The less clear it is, the harder it is for other people to use it, the harder it is for other people to transfer it and to get the result from it. So for example, just last week, this membership program that I'm a part of, not as a salesperson, but as a member that I pay for, they gave us access to a platform that allows you to schedule social media posts, and it looks like it has a lot of bells and whistles and a lot of stuff to do, but it was very unclear. It's not very it's not intuitive how to use this platform because there's so many pieces to it. And I told my assistant, I said, you figure this out, watch all the tutorials, find out how this thing works, and once you understand it, all I'm going to do is I'm going to give you the status updates in the document, you figure it out and you handle that. I don't even need to know how it works. Just make sure that it stays topped up, make sure it's filled up, the queue is filled and is working. I don't need to understand it. And there are other apps though, like if you download most of the apps that I download from the App Store or something like that, if I use it for a couple minutes and I can't really figure out how to use it, I usually just end up deleting the app because this thing is not clear enough. Your things need to be very clear, especially when you're spreading them to the masses. The masses meaning anyone can come across it and anyone can use it and anyone can benefit from it. Your instructions need to be very clear because people are not as smart as you think they are. So that's why it is very important that you make sure your directions are very, very clear when you're telling people what to do. That's why the Geico commercials, when they say even a caveman can do it, it's a very salient point that the caveman, the whole point of them saying that is that the caveman is supposed to be the stupid person. But there are some people who are at the same intelligence level as those cavemen. So if you ever found yourself and your instructions not being followed, it's not always because people are just trying to be belligerent and go against you out of perversity. Sometimes it's because your instructions were not well articulated. But we're going to fix all that here today. Point number 1. Today's topic, once again, is how to give clear directions. First of all, you got to get clear on the outcome. What is the result that you want these directions to achieve? When people know exactly what the result is that is to be achieved, then it is easier for them to follow the directions. Now, why is this? Because you may be thinking, well, someone following directions shouldn't have anything to do with the desired result. Whether they knew the result or not, shouldn't they still follow the directions, Dre? Well, here, let me tell you why it matters. Because when someone understands what the outcome is, now they understand why the process is the process. And when people understand why they're doing something, not just what they are to do, maybe, just maybe, they might be able to bring a little bit of their own intelligence and ingenuity into the situations. I'm assuming that you bring smart people around you to help you get things done. So if this person happens to be smart, maybe even smarter than you, or at least smarter than you in some areas, maybe they might notice something that you did not notice. Maybe they can offer something that you never thought of, and they can come up with a way of making your directions produce even better results than they had produced before. But we'll get to that later on. The fact is, many people are incapable of even giving directions to themselves, let alone to other people, simply because many people violate this first point, in that they are following directions or instructions, or at least they think they are, but they don't even know what their outcome is. They don't even know what they're trying to achieve. So there are many people out there, some people who are listening to this right now. You show up every day to work, wherever your work is, whether it's on your phone, your computer, at an office, and you don't even know what the outcome is that you are after. And so you're violating this first point. So even while you're following the steps, whatever the steps may be, wherever you're getting them from, I don't know where, if there's no outcome, but whatever steps it is that you're following, you can't be as crisp and as precise and as consistent as you could be if you would be, let's say, if you knew what the outcome was. Many people are violating this point, not knowing their outcome, but they're working. Or even if they can articulate an outcome, the outcome is so vague and unclear that it doesn't even make sense to them. So you got to get really clear on your outcome. For example, I was talking to an entrepreneur a few weeks ago. This entrepreneur was telling me that their goal, their desire was to, now of course they want to make more money in their business, but they said, I want to get more followers on social media. And I started digging into that. Well, why do you want to get more followers on social media? And this person's answer, their response to that was very vague. Their answer was, well, I see a lot of other people who are in my similar lane. They have a lot of followers on social media, so I want to get more followers. And I said, well, those people having followers, is it necessarily is it necessarily translating to their bottom line, i.e. them making more money in their business? Because I understand that's the reason why we're having this conversation. And the person's answer was kind of wishy-washy, like, well, I don't know, but I just want to have more followers just so I can have them. And then they eventually got to the tangent of they do want to make more money in their business, and they think the followers are going to help them make more money. And the conversation just had all these different branches, because this person, they have a bunch of different answers, a bunch of different reasons why they want to do a bunch of different things, all based on the fact that this person isn't really clear on what their outcome is. They don't know what they want. Do you just want to have followers to have followers? Like, if that's what you want, then just be clear about it. Do you want to have followers because you think they're going to buy stuff from you? If that's what you want, be clear about it. Do you want people who are going to actually buy stuff from you, which might be fewer followers but more sales? Is that what you want? If that's what you want, be clear about it. But when you can't be clear on exactly what you want and or why you want it, then anything could suffice as an answer. And at the same time, nothing can suffice as an answer. And then you're going to find yourself stuck, all right, working and working and working, but still not getting the result that you want. So you got to get clear on what your outcome is. And then we can work strategically to deconstruct the outcome from the end point to the current point. And then also it's going to require a person having the humility to say, okay, well, maybe my thoughts on what would work are actually not the accurate thoughts. That's a different conversation though, for a different day. Point number 2. Today's topic, once again, is how to give clear directions. Number 2, do not overestimate the intelligence of other people. This is a really important point for any form of delegation, or any form of also giving instructions when you're trying to sell something, or when you're marketing to the masses and you want everyone to understand your message. It has to be really tight and really clear, and it should not require any level of interpretation, and hopefully, ideally, as little thinking as possible. Yes, you heard me correctly. This includes yourself. Don't overestimate your own intelligence. When you're laying out the steps of a task, make sure you are detailed and specific as to what needs to happen, why it's happening, when it's happening, and where it's happening. It will also help if you explain the reasoning for the steps that you are giving, so that if someone needs to make a decision on the fly about whether they should move forward with you or not, or follow your instructions or not, or if they can see something that you can't see, they can make an alteration or adjustment that will make things work more efficiently. So this is something that I always do anytime I'm training staff to do anything for me. I say, well, this is the way that I've been doing it up to this point, or this is the way that it's been done before you. If you see a way of making it better, let me know what it is. Tell me why this way is better. And if your way is indeed better, then we'll follow your way. But you can't do that unless you make it clear the reason why. Why are we doing things this way? Why have we been doing it with this method up to this point? So it helped for you to, again, explain the reasoning. So if someone needs to make a decision, they understand, they have a framework for making that decision, because we know what the outcome is. Now they can make a choice without even having to come to you if they need to make a decision on the fly. This is something that Napoleon Bonaparte was famous for doing with his lieutenants at war. He would give them a mission statement and say, okay, this is the outcome that I need you to achieve. I don't need you to come to me every time you have a question or anytime you have an idea. As long as you can achieve the outcome, you do it however you see fit. Whatever idea you have, whatever call you want to make on the fly, you want to call an audible at any point, and you want to change the plan and do it a different way, that's fine. I talked about calling audibles in episode 2019. If you want to call an audible, Napoleon would tell his lieutenants, I don't know if he used that language, but if you want to do something different than what the original plan was, go ahead and do it, as long as you achieve the outcome. If you achieve the outcome, I have no problems. But if you don't achieve the outcome, then you're going to have to answer for that. You're going to have to speak for yourself and defend why you made the choices that you made. So that's why explaining the reasoning matters. When people know the big picture, let them decide how the little picture gets done. Again, especially if they're smart and skilled and talented, maybe they'll come up with a better plan than even you would, so they can make an adjustment without your input. So one talent that I see with people, even when they are laying out their processes and systems, is that you want to find people who know things. You want people who can understand the directions, and then when the instructions are understood, they can take a big picture idea and they can figure things out on their own. On the other hand, the mistake that people make is they leave things maybe too vague, And that leads to, even with the big picture outcome is too vague. That only leads to confusion, ambiguity, ultimately lost time, which ends up being a waste of life, because time equals life. So you got to be very specific when you're laying out at least the outcome, and depending on how much control you want to have every step along the way, even for yourself. So do not assume that you will understand yourself tomorrow, a month from now, or let alone a year from now. What I mean by that is this: whenever you're, for example, when I'm updating the CRM, or I'm having my assistant update the CRM, which is where we keep up with our leads and tasks and media appearances and things like that, I always make sure that I and anyone who's working for me puts detailed notes in any update we put in our CRM. Make it detailed and clear exactly why you did what you did, why you sent that email, what happened on that phone conversation, why you pushed the next contact for this lead, why'd you push it back 3 weeks, why'd you move it up, why did you do those things. I need detailed notes as to why you made every move you made, so that next week when we look at this lead again, we know why we did what we did last week, because you're not going to remember the reason why you did it last week next week. So that's why you got to be very detailed in the notes that you take, very detailed in how you're doing things, because your shorthand ideas, yes, you're remembering it right now because you're thinking about it, but a year from now, you go look at that note, you're not going to remember why you even wrote that, if you're not detailed enough as to, this is what I did, this is what happened, this is what I'm thinking, this is why we did this thing. That's how detailed you need to be when you're even leaving notes for yourself, let alone for another person. So you want to make sure you're very clear, very tight, and regimented in the way that you explain things. Not only what to do, but what you have already done, so that anyone can pick up where you left off and follow it. Point number 3. Today's topic, once again, is how to give clear directions. Number 3, whenever you give someone directions, always ask them to repeat the directions back to you in their own words, so that you understand, that they understand exactly what they're doing, why they're doing it, how they're doing it, and so that you know that everyone knows that you are all on the same page. Anytime you give instructions, always ask them, repeat it back to me. Explain to me what I just said. Explain to me what you're going to be doing. Explain to me in your own words what you just heard, so that I know that you know what I want. This is one of the first lessons of delegation that I learned almost 15 years ago, when I wasn't even sure I would ever even be capable of having somebody work for me. Like, how am I going to give somebody instructions? I wasn't sure I knew how. But it was an invaluable lesson that I still use to this very day. Anytime I give someone instructions, I always say to them, okay, now tell me what I just told you in your own words, so that I know you know what I'm saying. Since I already told you in point number 1, not to overestimate the intelligence, or point number 2, not to overestimate the intelligence of other people, including yourself. Anytime you give someone directions, you want them to explain it back to you, because often you'll notice that they didn't quite understand what you said. Maybe they weren't listening. Maybe you were talking over their head. Maybe you said it too fast. Maybe your directions were unclear. It could be any one of those reasons. Sometimes you'll look at your own directions. Again, this is why I said not even yourself. You shouldn't overestimate your own intelligence. Sometimes you'll look at your own directions and not understand even your own words. You won't even understand what you said, because you weren't clear to yourself. Again, it was clear in your head when you thought about it. It was clear in your mind when you said it to yourself. But then when you go look at something that you wrote 3 months ago, you're not quite sure what you're saying. And this is a clarity issue. And that clarity issue has to be cleared up, because the less clear something is, the less likely you will get somebody to follow through. That's why this point matters so much, because being clear is a detail, it's a discipline, and it's something that is easily overlooked and often ignored by many people. And that's a mistake. Your job as a giver of directions is to make sure that whoever you are giving your directions to understands what needs to be understood, and it's also your job to not assume anything. Anytime you give someone directions, do not assume that they know what you know. That's a big mistake. Do not assume that they understand what you told them. Another mistake. And always ask them to give it back to you in their own language, so that you know exactly what they know. And then you can correct them. And you'll notice, as you start doing that, you'll notice that you were having to correct them because they thought they got what you said, or at least they want to show that they thought they got what you said, but you'll find out that they actually didn't get it. That's why it's very important you always have people repeat back to you whatever you told them, so you know that they know you're on the same page. All that said, let's recap today's class, which is how to give clear directions. Definition of a direction is a course along which something or someone moves. Even dumb people can follow good directions, so if people are not following your directions, it's probably because they're not clear enough, but let's get clear on that. Point number one, get clear on the outcome. When people know exactly what result is to be achieved, it's easier to follow it because now they know why you're taking the steps that you're taking. And that if that person is smart, they have any level of intelligence, they might be able to make an edit along the way that is better than what your original plan was. That's why you need to get good people around you, and also why you need to get clear on what your outcome is so that they can help you and make things better. You shouldn't have to think for another person and let them think for themselves. Give them a clear outcome and let them use their brain to make it work. Point number two, do not overestimate the intelligence of people, including yourself. When you lay out the steps of a task, you need to be detailed and specific, and you will often find that you are not as detailed nor as specific as you thought you were. So make sure your process is laid out in a way that cannot be misinterpreted. And if someone is misinterpreting your process, that is a mistake on your part that you need to figure out why they misinterpreted it, where, and then make your adjustments so it doesn't happen again. Be very specific when laying things out, even for yourself. Do not assume you'll understand your notes from 3 months ago, 3 months from now. You probably won't unless you were being detailed and specific. Number three, whenever you give someone directions, always ask them to repeat the directions back to you in their own words so that you understand that they understand exactly what they're doing, why they're doing it, how they're doing it, and that everyone all knows that you are all on the same page. Again, this is one of my first lessons in delegation back when I first got started. Do not overestimate, again, another person's intelligence. Don't overestimate yours. Sometimes you'll look at your own directions when you overestimate and not understand even what you said simply because you thought you would be able to remember what your shorthand meant or what this abbreviation meant or what your quick notes meant, when in fact you forget what even you were talking about later on. So that's why you got to be very specific whenever you're taking notes or leaving a note for yourself. That is a mistake to not be clear, because being clear is a detail and a discipline, and you make that mistake at your own peril. Do not assume that anybody knows anything. Always assume that they know nothing, and if they do know more than nothing, then let them surprise you with it. But do not assume that they know it. All that said, send me a text. You can get my daily motivation text free of charge straight to your phone every single day. My number is 305-384-6894. And go to workonyourgameuniversity.com so you can join my Bulletproof Mastermind, work with me directly, get all your challenges answered. We work on your mindset, then strategy, your accountability, and execution in that order. My Bulletproof Mastermind also, you get access to all of my courses there. It was my 25 hours, ASAP Confidence, Bulletproof Mindset, the Work on Your Game system, content machine course, and about 15 more courses. All of that is at workonyourgameuniversity.com. Work on your game. Dre all day.